Hello, this is David Ward, and I'd just like to show you a little technique I used in Blender to visualize a deck in the backyard of my house. I wanted to build a deck, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted it to look like, so I jumped into Blender and I used sort of like a CAD program and kind of created a deck to build, and I'd have all the specifications, dimensions, and everything laid out here in Blender precisely the way it needed to be, with the correct measurements and everything. So, as you can see, this is the final design. I had a few variations in between here. Let me just show you my photo album, and no, I'm not just showing off my my carpentry skills, but I'm going to show you how to use Blender for just such an occasion. This is the yard before. Obviously, here's a concrete slab, and my my bad attempt at creating a garden last year. It just looked ugly and it didn't work there, and then a little bit of a flower bed. So, I pulled up all the rose bushes and put them in pots here, and then just, kind of pulled out all those dead bushes and everything and marked with the little flags where I wanted to put the posts, and then outline with the string and boards there, or stakes. And then originally this was the pretty much the only plan that I had. You might have saw the posts here in the final version, but originally I was just going to be basically this, just a frame on top of those two beams, or piers, as you want to call them. But it was a little wobbly here on the edges, so I went ahead and dug some more holes and put posts in. So anyways, as you can see, I went through and I added all the boards and everything over the course of about 2 weeks, and I finished the deck. So now you can see it kind of looks almost exactly like my original visual. If I go into rendered view, and actually now I've actually started staining it. I say paint stain because the stain I'm using actually is latex based, so it's kind of a opaque stain. It's almost like paint, but it's somewhat transparent, so you still see some of the wood grain through it, but it's a really saturated red at the same time. So anyways, yeah, let's jump in and I'll show you real quick. Just I'm going to create some since I covered up the garden that I had, I'd like to still have a garden, but maybe one that has better soil, because the ground around my house doesn't seem to be very nutritious for plants and things. But I'm going to create some planter boxes, so I figured I'd show you my process. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new file and come back to the normal viewport, and now if you hit N on your keyboard, you'll bring up your properties panel here, and if we go down to display, well, let me say something real quick. Normally, looking in here, you have this grid, and that's pertinent that you pertinent that you need to use that. If you're trying to visualize architectural things, so you have exact measurements and things like that. Now, in the default view, let's go to hit 5, so we're in orthographic. Each one of these boxes, we're going to have that represent 1 foot. So if we zoom in, you can see that it has subdivisions in there, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 subdivisions for each unit. So this is based on the metric system rather than the imperial system that I'm used to, being a United Statesian American. So we can change that to where it shows 12 subdivisions instead of 10. And the way you do that is over here in display. Right here you see subdivisions 10. So just boom, boom, knock that up to 12. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Kind of hard to see that bordering line there, but there you go. Now the default cube is going to be 2 by 2, 2 Blender units by 2 Blender units, but since we changed that to 12, we can go ahead and call it feet now. 2 feet by 2 feet, cube there. So I want to turn this into a 2 by 4, and the actual dimensions of a 2 by 4 are actually 1.5 by 3.5. So if you're building something to go in the real world, you want to make sure that you take into account that the 2 by 4 dimensions are not exactly 2 by 4. It's 1.5 by 3.5. So you can see I'm going halfway through this unit here. This will be the 1 inch by, a half inch. So there we go. And if you want it really precise, you can zoom in really far and just match that up like so. Now, So we got the 1.5 wide, and it needs to be 3.5 tall. So we'll just select everything, scale it on the z-axis down to about where we want it to go. You can see now that it is roughly 4 inches tall, but we need to make it 3.5. So let's select those top vertices, and we'll drag them down on the z-axis. Just hit G. I don't have my screencast keys on right now. I apologize if you get confused what keys I'm pressing, but G moves, and we're moving on the z-axis. So you just hit G and then Z, and you move only on the z-axis. So we want to move this to about right there. Okay, so now we have us a 2x4 board. Now, the height and width, the 2x4, those are, inaccurate as far as the actual dimensions go, but the length is always going to be exact. So if you buy a board at the lumber store that's 2x4 by 8, the 8 feet will be correct. It will be 8 feet exactly long. They might have, a variation of a 1/4 inch or so, but overall it will be, what it says, 8 feet. But the 2x4 part will be 1.5 by 3.5. Now, okay, so the box I want to build for the planter, I want to make it 3 feet by 1 foot. So let's grab this and drag it up another foot. If you hold down Control, you can increment up inches wise. So that'll help you keep things accurate too. So let's select this, Shift D. I'm going to duplicate that. And did I hit Shift G? No, I guess Shift D. There we go. And duplicate that on the X-axis all the way, and I'm going to drag it on the other side of that foot mark there. Actually, yeah, that'll be fine. Let's just drag it over and line it up perfectly with that grid line right there. So about right there. Okay, so this is going to be the base of our box. And now I'm going to grab one of these, Shift D, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. You know what, I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and turn my screencast keys on, just so you know what I'm pressing. Screen. Okay, it's already on. Let me just start displaying. There we go. Okay, so now I've created the 2 baseboards, and I duplicated one of them and turned it 90 degrees so that I can put it up here as an end cap, essentially. So we'll just drag that up until it's even. Grab this, drag it down there, so that's matching that. Okay, then I'm going to Control L, so it selects all of the linked vertices. Shift D on the Y-axis, drag this down. Line this up on the end there. And now you could already see this is going to help us out when we go to start cutting our wood, our actual physical world wood. We can see what dimensions we're going to need. So for the 2 longer boards, it's going to be 3 feet long. So that's easy enough. But then for these guys on the inside, I guess it'll be 1 foot because we're on the outside of the edge there. So we got 1 foot, 2 sections of 1 feet, and 2 sections of 3 feet. So we have essentially an 8-foot board right here. So if you buy a 2x4 by 8, this will be, it'll encompass all that you have here. So it kind of gives you an idea how much wood you're going to need. Like, you wouldn't think that a whole long board like that would be eaten up by this small space, but believe me, building that deck, oi, need more wood, Gotta run back to the lumber store, gotta run back, need more wood. So anyway, so this is going to be the base. Now I want it to be quite a bit taller than, well, I'll say quite a bit. I want to be taller than this. So I'm going to take some, I also have a deck board left over, and that's a little bit different dimensions. It's going to be, instead of a 2x4, it's going to be, they call it a 5 quarters, which is, 1 1/4. 5 quarters by 6, which is actually 1 inch by 5.5. So let's duplicate one of these 2x4s and adjust it accordingly. So I'm just going to drag this over to this grid line here so we have something to go off of. And we just need to make it 1 inch thick instead of 1.5 inch thick. Drag that over till it's nice and even. And looks like I'm a little bit off on this board here, or this side here. Drag that. There we go. Okay, so we got 1 inch wide. And we'll go to our side view, hit 0, so we're evened up. Select this whole board. Let's move it up above the other so we don't get it confused. Go and drag it all the way up to that grid line right there. Okay, so now it's 3.5 inches wide You might be hearing a bell in the background. I have a TV dinner in the toaster oven, but I'll get to that shortly. So now we're at 3.5 inches wide. We need to go down 2 inches. So if you just hold on Control and just click and drag, boom, boom. So now we have our deck board that is 1 by 5.5 or 5/4 by 6. So this should be good to go. Let's go ahead and drag it, Control L, drag it over, and we're going to attach it to the top edge of that 2x4 base. So just drag it down just enough to get some screws or nails in there to attach it. And kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. It's going to have just kind of a lip underneath it. Okay, and let's go to our top view, tab back into edit mode. We're going to Shift D, duplicate that, drag it over to this side. Okay, and now just like we did on the base, just drag it up and rotate it 90 degrees. And then this time it's going to be, this is where our grid's really going to help out. So you can see that we're not going to be a foot wide like we have on that 2x4 down here. This one's going to be substantially longer. So let's grab these and make sure we get them pretty even. Okay, so now we can see that that is going to be a little longer, like I said. And if we look at our grid view, you can see that it's going to be 1 foot plus about 2.5 inches on either side. So it's going to be, instead of 12 inches, it's going to be 17 inches. So that'll help when we go to start cutting our wood. So I'll go ahead and duplicate that down here. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And now we have our basic box. That's kind of the box I'm wanting to go. But you might be thinking, Dave, there's no bottom on this box. And you are correct when you say that. So let's do this. Let's add a plane. Tab into edit mode. And let's add a plane. And for the base, I'm going to use some old plywood that I have in my garage. It's just been laying there for I don't know how long. But I'm just going to make use of it finally. It's going to be 1 foot. Actually, you know what? I don't want to attach it to the bottom because then you'd see the edge of it and it just wouldn't be pretty. So let's make it a tiny bit smaller. Let's cut off about 3/4 of an inch on each side. And let's select that whole thing and raise it up above so we don't accidentally get it confused. Okay, so let's drag this in here to where it's about there, 1/2 inch. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the top. Control L. Let's just scale it on the y-axis and then drag it down into place. I'm just going to come in about 1/2 inch on each side of the baseboard there. So about right there. Now, what I'm going to do, I have what's called a router in my garage. It's a tool that has a spinning tip that you put a bit on, and a bit, B-I-T, and it can put all kinds of fancy designs along the edges of your boards. Or if you extend it out a little further, it can put like a notch in there. So if I add some loops in here just to show you, well, if I can grab the right board there. There we go. About like so. And then grab this guy. And we'll extrude it inwards a little bit so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. The router can put a groove in that board like so. And then our bottom, if I can, oh, I was trying to grab the corner, but the vertices weren't turned on. Let's extrude that up just so it's physical world. Now, depending on how thick you have the plywood, mine's about 1/4 inch, I believe, or let's see, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I'd have to actually go measure it to know for sure, but we'll just call it in between here just for visualization. This part's not that important because it's just the thickness, and as long as it fits in that groove we just created, it should be fine. So this will be the ground board. We go ahead and put that down into that like so, and it'll fit there all around. We'll put that groove in each one of these baseboards, and then also what you want to do, so you have drainage if you're creating a garden box like so. Oops. There we go. It's weird. Okay. You want to go ahead and put some drain holes in it. So just drill some holes there in the middle. It'll be a pain in the neck to put a circle in each one of these. I'd have to add a lot of edges and everything. But in any case, now we have kind of our dimensions of what our garden box will look like. Now you can make this taller if you like, but just for visualization's sake, I think that'll be deep enough for, you know, what little plants I'll have. Hopefully the roots will be able to get a good hold in the dirt there, not be blown over by the wind. But in any case, that's a way to use Blender to visualize architectural objects. So, okay, so in the real world here, I use a circular saw to cut the boards and everything, and of course a hammer and some nails. Now these nails here are basically just for the decking part, the thinner boards, because they're not really long enough to go very deep into the wood. And you want to make sure they're galvanized too, otherwise they'll probably rust and decompose easy. There's my trusty tape measure and a square and a pencil. Okay, so I'll start off cutting off with the 2x4s. Get them measured out. Remember, it was 2 sections of 3 feet and then 2 sections of 1 feet, as it were. So I get that marked. Grab my trusty square there, so I get a nice, perfectly straight angle. Now I'm marking it straight, but I don't always cut straight. So the final product won't be, you know, the machine precision that you might get at a store or somewhere. But in any case, get those marked up on those little boards too. And go ahead and mark this one too. Okay, and then break out the saw. And you want to make sure you're wearing eye protection because it throws a lot of sawdust. So if you're wearing glasses, even with my normal glasses, I was getting sawdust in my eyes. So if you have any eye protection, you might want to use it. Now, to put it together with the 2x4s, I had to use some longer nails. Luckily, I had some in the garage. And these also are galvanized, meant for outdoor construction and treated lumber, which is what this wood is. Now see, I'm butting this up against the corner post of the deck there, so it has something solid to strike against when I start hammering the nail in. So go ahead and nail that in there like so. You see the camera shaking from the jostling that the hammering the nail in is doing. Nails didn't want to go in that easy, but finally got it. Reach for a second one. I like to put 2 in each edge like this, one at the top, one at the bottom. Gives a little bit more durability there. So got the one on that side, flipped it over. Go and work on the other side. Same thing, butted it up against the corner post. Go ahead and hammer that in there. They like to start curling around on me. Okay, so now I got both ends almost done there. Get the final base box shape there, the base frame. Okay, good to go. Figure out which side I want to set down and build up on. I guess that one there's the best one. So now we'll break out the deck board that I had left over laying in the garage. Go ahead and do the same measurements there. Measure out 3 feet. Mark it. And while I'm at it, go ahead and another 3 feet down. Mark that one at the 6 foot mark. This is an 8 foot board that I'm messing with right here. So go ahead and mark that. And then grab my old trusty square. I don't like to let the the tape measures pop to, you know, reel themselves in too fast because I'm always afraid it's going to cut my finger or something. So anyway, same thing here. If you got eye protection, make sure you want to use it while you get sawdust all in there. Also, make sure you're very careful if you're not real familiar with using wood tools like this. You can easily lose a finger or something even worse. So be very careful. In any case, so I got those boards all cut. And I want to mark with my square here. I think it was about 2.5 inches up. And I mark that down so I can get the top frame of the deck boards that I'm nailing to the top part of this box. Get them all straight and even. Let's get that hammered on there with those smaller nails. They didn't want to be too sturdy. So in the end, I actually had to use some of the longer nails to make it real sturdy, because they held it in place, but I'm afraid that they wouldn't last very long once the weather got to them and all that dirt and mud being in the box at all times, keeping it nice and wet everywhere. So the more solid you can make the construction, the better. So got that on there, and went and flipped it over, and got the other one on there. And now you can see that the dimensions I measured in Blender is a foot wide and plus 2.5, so that's or 1.5 and 1.5. In any case, I think it was 17.5 inches total, and I got it pretty accurate. Now, the reason it's a little crooked in some parts is because the boards were, when I nailed them on, they were kind of leaning a little bit. So, and plus some of the wood's probably warped a little bit. But in any case, we got our box made and ready for a coat of paint. That's just where I'm going, visualizing where I was going to put it. But in any case, I went ahead and put a coat of that same stain paint on there, and planted me some little garden-esque. I got some bell peppers, banana peppers, and jalapeno peppers. So that's how you can use Blender to get an accurate dimensions representations in the real world and build something cool. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll catch you next time.